passes by, another one's gone to the other side. Brothers and sisters who gave it their all, they said, send me when America calls.
Hi, I'm Frank with OrderPlans.com, a division of PKAD Architecture and Design, and we want to welcome you to this next and latest special episode of Talking Shop in the Shop. And this week, you know, we've changed locations. We're not in the coffee shop any longer, but we're here at CT Woodworking in Patchogue, in the barn. And my good friend here, Corey, we are in the woodworking shop. And Corey is a very skilled young man. Been in the really had a chisel in your hand since what, 6 years old. 6 years old. Your grandfather on a custom-made bench.
Custom-made bench.
Yeah.
And then worked in a shop since I was 16 years old, 32, so almost half my lifetime.
Half his life dedicated
in a shop.
Correct.
Doing this kind of work: cabinets, furniture, built-ins, vanities, you name it. I've done it.
That's right. So I was talking with a friend of mine, real senior guy, and he was talking about how years ago, generations when culture was different and craftsmanship was really, this was Santa's workshop, right? This was handmade stuff, and they didn't have all the distractions of TV and entertainment, and that's why the craftsmen, they would pour everything into their trade. And that's why when you look at the old stuff, right? You said you were sitting in your grandfather's chair.
My grandparents' dining room set which was their grandparents.
Right.
And it's still standing true to this day.
Right. And so the tagline here is
where ideas become heirlooms. So I want to build heirloom quality furniture that your son's son can have it, or your daughter's daughter can have it generations from years from now.
Right, correct. So like this here, for example, is a ash guitar stool, right? And something like this would retail for about
$800.
$800, and if you have a finer, more exotic,
finer one, maybe up to $2,000.
Up to $2,000. So this is real exquisite. You know, the joinery on this, it's all handcrafted. So that's where we're at here today in the barn, and we're gonna have some guests here. We're gonna come over here onto the lathe. We're gonna play a little bit. We're gonna turn some wood. We're gonna get some man glitter on us, right? Sawdust is man glitter. And we're gonna have a great time here in the shop. All right, so I wanna introduce the guests here for this episode of Talking Shop in the Shop. I've got Paul DiLandro, from DiLandro Engineering, septic engineer with his office in Southampton. So he was on the first episode, and I've got Rob Byrne from Higher Elevation Home Inspections. And so we're going to be talking today a little bit about this issue of Suffolk County septic systems and the issue that is surrounding it. So if you want to be a little more educated on the issue, I'd recommend you go back to the first episode where Paul and I were in the coffee shop, and John, we were talking about the septic systems and what does it mean and the booby traps. But this episode in particular, what we wanted to do was talk about the practical issues behind when you're on an inspection, right? And Rob, why don't you just why don't you just talk a little bit about what your firm does, so everyone listening can get an idea.
We're Higher Elevation Home Inspections. We're a family-owned and operated business. We've been doing it for over 20 years. We have an engineering background as well in the home inspections. My son works with me full-time. He's a lead guy. And everybody on our staff has some type of engineering background, electrician, so we bring some trades into the inspection.
And so you'd be one of the first things, right? So if you have a real sharp realtor and they have a new listing, especially in this environment where things are getting a little dicey. It's not 21, it's not 20, things aren't just flying off the shelf. There's not a long line of buyers coming to open houses, right? It's a harder environment now to sell. So a real sharp realtor is going to have someone like yourself come in a pre-listing inspection, correct?
Good point. What they do is the real estate people ask us to come in and do a pre-inspection. So like Frank was saying, deal with the challenges before the house gets listed. So that's when Frank would come in and take care of CO issues, or Paul as well, because we always bring up the fact that we cannot see that sewer line. We don't know what's going on with the septic, cesspool, sewer, anything like
Right.
that. So if you do what you're saying ahead of time, you save yourself a lot of headaches.
So your space is to come in and look at all the major systems, from the roof to the mechanical to the electric to the plumbing to the framing to the the guts of it, right?
Yes.
So that's what you're now.
Yes.
Now what we're finding, right, and Paul, especially in Suffolk County, where we have older systems, right? And how many of these systems are you designing a year?
Probably about 200 a year.
All right, 200 a year. So Paul's office really is sort of setting the standard in terms of volume. So not that you've seen it all, right? It's not your first rodeo either.
No, and you can
Right.
always be surprised.
Always be surprised, right?
Let's say 98% of the stuff we've seen and been able to handle with respect to an existing system that needs to be upgraded,
Right.
either because it's currently not in code compliance or the homeowner's wishing to do renovations,
Right.
additions,
Right,
those kinds
right.
of things.
So without getting into the, again, the guts of it, because we can go back to the first episode and listen. So not to bore the audience and those watching, but more of a practical standpoint, right? Because you're going to see things out of the get-go, which now is flagging an issue. And why is that important? So let me ask this question. You go into the environment, you go into the home, and you're in a non-sewer district in Suffolk County, specifically. A realtor's just listed, they get a listing and they're going to get this on board, right? Now you go out and you see some deficits. Or maybe it's a buyer's agent, right? And they're savvy and they're coaching their homeowner to say, hey, this is going to need a new septic system at some point, and that's a negotiation point. So it's either disaster for someone or it's an opportunity for someone else. But these are things that nobody wants to be surprised afterwards. It shouldn't necessarily scuttle a deal, right? But everyone needs to be aware of what they're going into.
Be educated, and
Be educated.
It is very simple because, as you know, you could just ask questions. Look at the location. If it's in the back of the house, it's a good probability that's an old block cesspool.
Okay, so if it's in the back of the house,
Usually, as a rule of thumb, it's
kind of a red flag.
Sometimes it has to be in the back because they don't have the frontage in the front to put it. But most of the times, our older houses that were built with, as you know, septic systems, they were in the back of the house.
okay, so back of the house might be a bad news.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, next thing.
So
what would
then
you see?
that would become a red flag. So the next thing, if we're looking at a septic system, the age and then the condition, we look in the trap area and we can kind of see if there was a lot of backups and
Yeah.
roots and all of that stuff.
Right.
So at that point, we recommend to have it scoped. So at least you can get an idea.
So when you say have it scoped, what do you mean?
What they do is they come with a camera and they go in through the trap area and they'll take it out the sewer line and go into the
Right.
cesspool, septic, whatever
Okay,
system they
so then
have.
Paul, what would be some red flags on that camera scope that would start saying we have a problem?
Sure. So when they scope that camera, and we start to see the waistline as it goes out to the septic or the cesspool, if it's Orangeburg pipe, if
So
there's
Orangeburg.
Yep.
So what's Orangeburg?
It's an old clay/asbestos pipe that is no longer code compliant. It's a good indication that septic hasn't been upgraded in a long time.
Right.
And it's going to be a block cesspool.
Right. So what should it normally?
It should be PVC
PVC pipe, right.
Cast iron pipe going out the foundation and transitioning
and then
to
some
PVC.
kind of hub, street hub, or
Street hub,
right,
and going right
and then
to
go to PVC. That's then going to dump in. So if you see that, that's a good sign. But if we
Right.
scope it and we see Orangeburg,
That's a bad sign.
oh, that's bad.
Correct.
And
Very
then
bad.
if we can keep getting the camera, sometimes it's so backed up that it's hard to even get the camera out there. But if at that point we can get the camera into the cesspool or the septic tank and we see the next indicator that there's a problem is if we see a block cesspool.
Okay, block cesspools.
Block cesspool.
When you say block, what do you mean? Like
So they used to
concrete
build
blocks?
little concrete blocks that someone would dig a hole by hand and get in the bottom of it and just
Start
start
stacking them?
these blocks as they go up to the top.
Right.
That's no longer code compliant.
Right.
And that means that
If you see bricks,
if bricks, same thing. The
if you
only
see
thing,
foreign objects,
foreign objects, which
is
all
bad.
not good.
and you've seen it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Bed frames.
Bed frames, all kinds of stuff that Or we've also gotten calls with these block cesspools that, hey, I got a hole in my yard,
Yeah.
not sure what it is. And well, that's your cesspool.
That's your cesspool.
just
That's where
yeah.
right.
And so
it's
now-
outlived its
Usefulness.
number one, and number two, right? Because they could be dangerous if they
Right.
collapse.
Good point.
They
That's
could
what I was
be
going to say.
dangerous.
What Paul said. Not only from a health issue, you also have a safety concern. So same thing when we do inspections. Even though there is a newer cesspool, what did they do with the old one? Did they backfill?
Yeah.
A lot of times we'll see new septic system, but if you look off to the side, there's a depression in the.
Correct.
Okay, so we have
What's happening
something
here?
going
Right.
on. So
Because
you know,
because if you have a cavity
yes.
and you have methane down there, oh my God.
Just a collapse, you know.
Oh.
You're building that play set for the kids, and you're putting it in this part of
Correct.
the backyard, and it collapses. I mean,
Correct.
It's a dangerous
not a good
situation.
Not a good
Yeah.
situation.
And
So
that's when you get obviously when you get design professionals involved and/or the right contractors,
Mm-hmm.
and when you go through the right permitting process, there's checks and balances in place to make sure that the existing system gets
Right.
treated properly
Right.
and decommissioned, and the
Right.
new one goes in.
right.
Good point.
So that's all.
And these are all right. So you see, a lot of times you get a first-time home buyer, right? Maybe there's a home buyer watching right now, and for the average person,
Or a good realtor.
or a very good realtor, right?
That wants a good job done.
Absolutely, right. They're a trusted source professional in the industry, right? And so this is something that is many times a person's largest investment.
Absolutely.
And to cut the corners, not the time to cut the corners. Go into it with your eyes open. You might love the house and say, okay, I know that, we're going to do this, but, these septic systems, if,
It's a smart investment for the proper inspections and scoping. When to replace one of these systems is at a minimum for a basic system, easy installation, going to cost you $20,000.
easy.
So if it's a complicated system, a bigger house, whatever kind of things, the price
Right,
just
and then,
goes up.
and then just pause, because I know everyone just said, holy mackerel, did he just say $20,000? The answer is yes.
And
The answer is
starting
yeah,
at-
and starting at.
And the other part, maybe that I didn't include the legwork, the survey, the system
Test
design,
bores.
the floor plans.
Correct.
That all go into
Right.
getting a successful application.
Right. So let's just give them a real quick, let's just slow that down 1 second, and they can always go back and watch the first episode.
Absolutely.
But every project that you will ever undertake, I don't care at the federal level or the homeowner level, everything in between, whether we're building skyscrapers or putting a small accessory structure in the back, you have a budget, and the budget is comprised mostly of the bricks and the sticks and the installation, right? That's your hard costs. And then you have the soft cost. And the soft cost is all the professional side of things that's needed to pull it all together. So your engineering, your architecture, your test bores, your surveys, all of that component adds up to your soft costs. And you add your soft cost and your hard costs, and that is your total budget for any project. So anyone undertaking a construction project and your budget is $300,000. Well, you can't build to the bricks and the sticks and the install to 300. You have to leave the lion's share, 90% or whatever that is, to the bricks and the sticks. But then there needs to be a professional side of things in the soft costs that come into the town is going to have their town fees, the engineering fees, the architecture fee, right? We're on multiple projects right now,
Absolutely.
right? So I'm thinking of the one in Hampton Bays, right? Now you're known as a septic guy, but you do so much more than septic engineering, right?
Yeah.
So you're on this, we have a client in Hampton Bays and they have a geothermal system going in, right? So you've done all the calcs on that, you've laid all this out,
Absolutely.
right? They have a new septic going in, right?
So we're handling, we do civil, structural, and mechanical.
So say you do,
Civil, which is the septic, site plan development, that scope of work, really
Right.
everything outside, working with a landscape architect, yourself, making sure access to the site, drainage, and
Right.
septic facilities are handled.
Right.
And then we start to move into the house and the accessory structures and buildings when we do mechanical and structural engineering.
right, so the mechanical, it would be your heating,
Heating,
cooling,
electrical, plumbing systems.
right,
and
of which
development.
then you're inspecting first coming in.
Correct.
To say existing conditions.
Correct.
Now, but we're working on proposed.
Right.
And then you'll do structural, right?
Structural,
Right.
which is making sure the building is going to stand up to the loads, both lateral, which is wind loads,
Right.
if there's a storm, whatever, and gravity loads, people using the structure, putting furniture in, whatever it is, and make sure that we work to achieve the design intent that
Right.
you aspire to have as the architect
Right.
and the owner.
Right, exactly. So you've been on some of our projects out on Dune Road where we've done the pool top project,
Sure.
right, with the steel. And then recently we were in that car accident where
Yeah.
this car ran right through the front door of the salon, right, and hit the structural member.
Right.
And thank God nobody was there during,
was
after
safe.
hours, right, it was safe, and there was no structural damage. But we needed you to come in and see this.
See to make sure
Right.
that they fortunately took out that one assembly and the structure stayed up around it.
Yeah.
Little minor repair,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that
Right.
we get involved
You
in.
know, it's funny, you bring up a good point, because when we go in and do the inspections, a lot of times, and you guys have seen this, the homeowner makes modifications to the structures that, it's like, what did you do? They remove lolly columns, they compromise the center
right.
beam.
And they didn't
it's
pull a
like-
permit, and now
Exactly.
they have an open CO, and now they're now that is where it all kind of comes full circle,
Right,
right?
that's
So
what you guys-
so you're
yes.
known as, like kind of, and I would say you're known. I don't want to brand you like that, but you do a lot of civil work, a lot of septic. So
Yeah,
and I'm talking to other our colleagues, and they're like, oh, they do structural, and I'm like, yeah, they do all my structural. Oh, they do mechanical? Yeah, they do all my mechanical. We go to DiLandro because you're reputable, you've been around, you've got a great staff. Right? You got staff of what, 15, 16? What do you have?
We're up to 17 people.
17.
And we do
give or take one or two engineers.
and different backgrounds.
Right.
Right. So we have different engineers that do civil engineering,
Right.
different engineers that do structural, and
Right.
different engineers that do mechanical.
Right.
So
right.
depending on what the project needs.
Right.
You know.
But back to the septic, you're going to have a entry level point of 20 grand for the bricks and sticks for the install.
For all the install.
But then you have the engineering fee, and then and then we would be automated to come in and
Do the floor
do the
plans.
floor plans, right? So you're going to have some light architecturals, and then you'd have a test bore, right? And then you have a very specific and highly detailed survey. So it's not a run-of-the-mill survey, right? There's very specific
In
requirements.
addition to the title survey you need for closing and
Right,
everything else.
right, and then you're going to need to have utility markouts, and you're going to have if that's DEC or things of that nature, right? Below the asterisk. But these are all the soft cost things that go on top of. So we're really not 20 grand. We're probably 30 plus.
And you bring up another good point, because a lot of times when we go on site and we see these things that, let's say you need a new septic system. We're walking the property, and there's been jobs where they have to take trees down to get to that. That's another thing that people don't realize, correct? So now you got to deal with a landscaper, because you can't get the heavy
Right.
equipment in there, because you got to cut the trees down,
Right.
because they're too, it's amazing.
Correct.
Or we have to move the septic to a different location. If it was in the backyard, maybe it has to go to the front
Right.
yard.
Right.
Well, a plumber's got to come in and redo that plumbing.
Exactly.
So that $20,000 for the hard cost of the initial it really is, that's the basis.
Right.
You're
Right.
there, and it's only going to go up
Right.
from there. And unfortunately, most projects are going to have something that's going to tick it
Correct.
up at least a little bit.
Correct. So bricks and sticks, soft costs, and miscellaneous. So we don't want to really scare everybody here, but we're doing, and I don't have anyone in here that is anything other than operate with integrity. We'd rather tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, right? That goes for Rob, that goes for Paul, that goes for our firm. So we're always going to tell you what you need to know. And there's no more urban legend. You're hearing truth right now from professionals that are here on pre-inspection, here on the execution, right? In our instance, whether we're involved on the architecturals or we're involved in cleaning up the COs or doing floor plans, whatever it is, we're seeing this on a regular basis, right? At numbers of 200 a year.
Yeah.
So you're talking, 15, 20 projects a month. That's a couple a week. We're not guessing at this.
And that's
right?
a good point. You don't do 200 a year without integrity and
Absolutely.
knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
To go to an engineering firm to have 15, 16, 17 people, and he confirmed with an in-house attorney.
Yeah.
So they're dealing with
right.
the real deal.
But we don't want to scare whoever's watching this and say, oh my God, the deal's not going to go through, or I just run away from this. The point is, you find a house that you love, no problem. But just go in with your eyes open, because when you have all the bits of information, decision making is easy, right? So that's what we want to get across here today. So anything else that you want to add in here on this point?
No, I think that's, like you said, biggest investment of your life. We're usually the first person at the property.
Right. And
it could be a buyer. It might not even be a pre-inspection. We get a phone call from
hey, would you go look
realtor.
at this?
Exactly. So we go there, and like you said, we're starting from the top. We're walking that roof. We're getting in the attic, we're looking at the structure, we're looking at the mechanicals, we'll look at everything, electrical, we pull
And
the panel off.
I've seen your, you've got great systems. Everything is there's nothing happening in the old triple kit with the carbon paper.
Right.
Right. So you're taking pictures. It's going right into your system. It's going right into your report. All of your guys have standardized, report generation, so you're not missing anything.
Correct. Yeah, we do on site. We always go with 2 inspectors, so we're able to put a lot of data in the mobile app that I showed you guys earlier.
Right.
And it goes directly up to the cloud into the report. And our report writing, like Paul had asked me, it's not proprietary. It's anybody can buy it, but it's a report writing software that was designed by an engineering firm. So we're home inspectors. You don't have to be an engineer to be a home inspector, but when you have that background, it helps a lot. And when you connect with the right people, you can recommend people to get the job done and not have to think twice about
And
it.
the other thing I just mentioned too is I know a lot of times when you're trying to close, there's a lot going on and a lot of pressure to get things done quick and expeditiously. Well, you do inspections 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So there really is no excuse to not have a qualified inspector come out. They're going to get there quickly, make sure it's done, and make sure you're well educated before you make that decision.
This is not the time to skimp on, I can find someone. No one, it has to be a fair market price. I get all that, but you want quality.
You get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. You want
Most people,
right.
most inspectors go out with one, and my feeling with that is, if I'm going out with a colleague of mine and you're the home buyer, I can literally walk you through the house by the hand and point everything out to you, when my associate is doing the nuts. We're still doing the inspection, but they're getting the nuts and bolts.
The experience is great.
And a lot of times what we'll do is, I'll turn around and I'll say to the client, I'm going to send you the report right now, but just realize it's the raw version of it, because technology, the pictures you take it, they come in upside down.
Right.
But we say, you know what, just take it tonight, go home, open a bottle of wine, review what we did.
Right.
Because you're getting a lot of information in a 2.5-hour inspection with two guys. So it's a 5-hour man hours.
It's inexpensive education.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I would say, to the homeowners, this is great education. To the realtors that might be watching, we all know that everyone here, if you're a realtor, you're a business owner. That's the mindset, right? We had our fractional CFO in here on the last episode, showing kind of some business tips. But you're always looking to build your team of professionals to help you secure the deal, to help you secure the listing, so that your client has a great experience in that transaction, right? And so that's really, what the podcast has been about, is trying to pull together, the right professionals to get the job done. All right, so I think that was a good coverage. Again, anyone who hasn't watched the first episode, architects, engineers sitting together talking about the nuts and the bolts of these new systems, go back to episode 1. But the thought of this podcast was that we're gonna have a little fun too. So we want to cut away now to some of the lathes, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a chunk of cherry, square block, and we're just gonna play around here a little bit and turn something into a little honey dipper, something that's functional. Maybe someone can, take it home. And this one's still on its rough stage, but why don't we come on over here to the lathes and we'll see what's what.
The price tag of freedom will never die. And I thank God for the warriors with fire in their medals and memories are all that remain, but the lives they lived honor their names. War cost blood and trillions, well, at least that's what they say. Real men and women with a price to pay. Their voices are now quiet, but they still live on in the hearts of the living. In this little song that played, oh, beautiful for spacious skies, and God bless America. The skies. And God bless America. The honor guard changes at the tomb of unknowns. Another day's gone, the sun's setting low. Then the last rays of light shine down on 6 men. They raised Old Glory once again, once again. Once again.
So we just finished up here in the shop, and we got something functional, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Made it out of nothing.
Made it out of nothing, right? Started off like this, right? Pulled it out, and then sanded it up, and got a little wood butter on there, and we had a good time here today.
Great time.
Yeah. So I guess the take home here, I don't know how that fits in, but maybe folks had a good time watching us play. But it's good, you know, it's good for the team to kind of get together and know that, you know, in a transaction from nose to tail, that, you know, if you're out there in the field and you get brought in by a quality realtor to investigate, and then that you let them know and come on back to the homeowner and to the realtors being able to do their due diligence in informing either the buyer or the seller that they have some kind of issue. Right?
Great idea. Great
So,
idea. This was awesome.
Yeah, cool. Well, I want to thank Rob and Paul for being on the shop here today, and Corey. We appreciate the use of the space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To learn something new skill,
Yeah.
try something different,
Yeah.
have some fun.
Yeah,
And
lots of fun.
introducing us to nice people. This was awesome.
Yeah.
I would have never met Paul or Corey if it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
put it all together.
Same goes for me.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was
You
great.
just never know where life takes you, and that's a good part about being in business for yourself, because you get to be out there and make good relationships. And at the end of the day, right, all of us, whether you're making furniture for the end user, or you're inspecting and giving someone insight onto the project, or to you, where you're providing valuable engineering services, or ourselves, where whether we're doing a full architecturals, or we're measuring floor plans and elevations and clearing up COs. At the end of the day, each one of our businesses is designed to add value into the marketplace and to look out for the home, to the end user, so that they have something at the end that's functional. Thanks for being with us here. For past episodes, you could look at the description below. And listen, if you're watching and you've had some interest here, whether it's when we're talking shop in the coffee shop, or we're here in the woodworking shop, and if you're a subject matter expert, if you'd like some kind of topic, something where you say, hey, I really like to know about blank in the engineering, the architecture, anywhere in the real estate transaction space, please reach out to us. Information's in the link below. Give us a ring. We'd love to have you on the shop. We'd love to have you in. Maybe we'll make something together. And we're really open to dialogue with the folks we want you to have value here. So with that, we wish you all the best here at CT Woodworking Shop, and we'll see you the next time at Talking Shop in the Shop. So from something like that to something like this, right? It's like there's probably some metaphor to life there. All the chipping and pulling out of what the lump of wood into something functional and bring it to your life.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very
All
cool.
right. Cool.